Hello DevOps friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor. And I'm a little bit late for my usual schedule, but hey, I'm at least doing a live stream. That's an achievement, judging from my previous streaming history. So usually I try to start at 2 p.m. Irish time, and now it's 3:30. So I'm a little bit delayed because, to be honest, I felt a little bit tired earlier in the afternoon and took a nap. And when my timer went off 20 minutes later, I checked and still felt tired. I said to myself, hey, listen to your body. If you need some rest, then use the freedom that you have and get it. And so I slept for a little bit longer. And then I thought, well, nobody says that you can't do a live stream later than usual. At least you're doing one. And here we are. Today I'm going to do some Ruby on Rails work. But first of all, welcome everyone and pop into chat. Let's make this an interactive show. I can do a 2 hour long monologue, but I don't have to. And I like when these things are more of a two-way thing. So hello to everyone. Hello Ozoned, even though you couldn't stay. Maybe you'll pop in later. That's perfectly okay. And yes, of course, I'm very happy to be streaming on Owncast. Just to give everyone a little bit of context, Ozoned over on my Owncast instance said can't stay on a work meeting at the moment, but thank you for streaming on Owncast. I'm streaming on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Owncast. And Owncast is an open source software that allows me to run my own live streaming channel without any ads, without any privacy intrusion. It's a simple software that simply relays my live stream and nothing more. So if you would like to watch me somewhere where there aren't any ads or where you have to log in or anything like that, then go over to live.monospacementor.com and it's absolutely the same content. You're more than welcome to use my own live coding platform. NeoQC joining us. Hello, hello, hello. And so what am I going to do today? I'm going to do some Rails coding. I started with that last week, I think, but we didn't get far because I realized, okay, I didn't think it through enough. And by now I did think about these things a lot. And what I mean by these things is that I'd like to add a generic service management to our hosting platform UI so that customers can easily add or upgrade services they are using on our hosting platform. So far, we of course do offer add-on services, but they are all hard-coded into the UI. Each of the services has its own class. There's a database class and storage class and stuff like that. And of course, that's not very extensible or even maintainable. And will probably, if I would go down this road even further, lead to a lot of duplicated code, because more or less it's the same if you add your storage or if you upgrade your database to a higher tier or something like that. Those are all the same steps. And I'd like to implement a very generic service management logic and data model for that, where we can simply assign a general plan to a customer, and then they have specific services at their disposal. Not all the services, because those might be limited to specific plans, but then they can choose between services, and within a specific service type, they can also upgrade or downgrade the capacity of their service. That's the general thought behind it. And that's what I'm going to try to implement today, at least as a prototype. And then we'll try and basically implement the kind of services we had in the past, as well as are having in the moment, so that I can see, is this thing flexible enough to even reflect plans that we don't even have anymore, but are different from what we have now, and therefore shows that the whole framework is flexible enough to also implement future plans and services that we don't even offer yet. And that's what we're going to do. Let me quickly update my development environment here. I already upgraded my command line tools using Brew Bundle. And I'll just have to see if I have to do some more cloning of Git repositories. Give me just a minute.
Hide the planet! Hide the planet! Shut up and get in the car! Hide the planet!
15 months? Thank you, Balthazar. That's really, really kind of you. Hope you're doing great. And Moo, hello. Oh, you you found the Mastodon account that you signed up here. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Happy to see all of you again, and happy to be back online, even a little bit later than usual. So, you can't see me working yet, but I'm just doing a little bit of housekeeping behind the scenes here. Where are we?
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Tima Sante, welcome. How you doing? So, that's that. And then we will need the dashboard repository. Let's create a new session here as well. Let's do a git pull. There is a new branch. Let's check that out, because that's exactly the branch we need. And yeah, I think we're ready to go. Here we are. Wildjan over on Owncast. Hello, nice to meet you too. It's so good to see people popping into the Owncast server. Timasant is based over in Brazil. Nice. I guess we can still say good morning, right? Bethesda says, I'm kind of stoked that Owncast is taking off. Yeah, definitely. I did. Timo Santa, now you're confusing me. Good evening? Oh, you're telling me good evening. Okay, yeah. Well, it's 4:42 in the afternoon, so it's not quite evening yet. That's what confused me. Wildren asks, how long have you been streaming on Owncast? So you have the Owncast 0.1 emoji set. It's about noon at your place, Timo Sade. Okay, that's brilliant. So I have been using Owncast for quite a while with a break in between. So I started using Owncast quite early, as you apparently can see from my emoji set. When I did some... did I exclusively stream on Owncast? I think I tried that for a while, but that didn't work out because, I just didn't reach as many people. And then I did multi-streaming, and the instance was mostly empty. And so I said, okay, but why waste a lot of bandwidth to stream into DevNull? And so I stopped using Owncast for a while, and just recently I renewed and reactivated the Owncast instance. And that's why I'm very happy to see that people are actually popping up over there. Because I think it's a great alternative. we have chat over there, we have the stream without any ads, without any interruptions, without any privacy intrusion. You don't have to create an account or anything. You can simply pop up and say hello. And I mean that's why I'm doing this stream. There's no monetization, which I'm not after anyway. Yeah, I think the Oncast instance is going to stay. Now, I'm in a branch called Service Management Design, which hints at the fact that I'm going to first try and get a proper design going. And for that, I have created this ADR, which is an architectural design record. Something that I haven't done intensively yet, but I decided to pick up again now for this, where I'll start by creating a document that describes the design idea. There can be some discussion around that. When all the kinks are ironed out, then I'll be able to implement that in the application itself. And here you can see my basic idea of how the data model is supposed to look like. It's not yet quite complete, as I can see immediately, because my thought process has progressed since I last wrote this, and there will be things that we'll have to add. But that's the rough plan here. We have a plan which is simply, maybe we'll call it hosting plan, simply to make it a little bit more clear what this is all about. And then we'll actually add that here as well. So there's a hosting plan. And a hosting plan can have multiple services, say MySQL, for example. Since we are specialized in hosting WordPress and Drupal websites, MySQL will definitely be part of the services that will appear here. And then for each service, we'll have different service levels, storage sizes or CPU allocation, different capacities basically. And each of these service levels will have a random number of service level attributes. So, for example, a service level attribute for a MySQL service could be disk space, for example, or for an Apache Solr server, it could be the number of documents that can be indexed, something like that. Not every hosting plan can contain every service. For example, we could say, okay, we'll have a hosting plan that doesn't even offer MySQL for static websites. Extra cheap, but no MySQL for you. And that's where the class hosting plan service eligibility comes in. And on the lower level, we'll then also have the hosting plan service level. Oh, I think I misread here. That's the hosting plan service eligibility. That's the general service. And then we might have service levels that are limited to specific hosting plans. For example, we could have a lower hosting plan that only offers storage up to 500 gigabytes. And if you want to have more than 500 gigabytes, you can't upgrade within this tier. You'll have to upgrade your hosting plan first, and then new service levels will become available. So that's where the hosting plan service level eligibility comes in. And then we'll have to assign a plan to a customer, or in our case, I'll assign it to a cluster. A cluster is basically a bunch of machines that serve the customer's websites. But since we mostly work with web agencies, those customers might have actually multiple clusters to have physical separation between websites, between customers, their own clients, something like that. That's why I'll assign a plan to a cluster, so a customer can have already has several clusters, but each one can have its own plan. There's an interesting insight I had when I started designing that. But let me catch up with chat first. While Jan says cursive monospace font in class names, yep, that's operator mono. That's the reason why I got that quite a few years ago, because it's cool. I really find it cool. Call me a nerd, because I am, but I find it cool to have cursive in my source code. Yeah, okay. And yeah, of course, once I say call me a nerd, Balthasar is eager to please. By the way, speaking of eager, Balthasar, are you ready for tonight's hangout? Because tonight, because it's the second Tuesday in a month, we're going to have our community hangout. And I hope you'll ask, community? Which community? Well, let me tell you, the community is called the Server Room, and it's a membership community with paid membership, because I'm putting a lot of time into this community, and everyone's trying to help each other grow. And memberships simply make this much more sustainable in the long run, because I really want this to be a thing that is built for many years. And so if you want to grow in the DevOps space, then the Server Room is definitely a good option, in my humble opinion, because everyone in there is very helpful. We are very inclusive and friendly, and try to help everyone grow as quickly and as usefully as possible. And tonight we're going to have our hangout, which is simply a Zoomcast that I'll start, and we'll hop on the call and talk about whatever comes to mind. It's not relegated to being a tech talk or tech chat. The amount of topics we've covered in our hangouts in recent years is staggering and very impressive. We talked about Eastern Christian iconography, about truck simulators, about all kinds of stuff. And so I'm very much looking forward to tonight when we do our community hangout again. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, then check out the serverroom.sh and maybe join us. Yeah, as Balthasar says, we talked about audio synthesizer instruments that emulate the Sega Genesis Mega Drive. I haven't bought one of those yet, but thanks for reminding me. Watch my wallet shake its fist. All right, so we'll have a cluster plan, and then yeah, the insight I hinted at earlier was this is a one-to-one association. One cluster can only have one hosting plan. And previously, I mostly modeled these by having the plan ID in the associated model. So the cluster class had an ID field that pointed to the plan that was associated with it. But now I realized why it's so useful to have one-to-one associations in the relational model, because the correct way to describe this relationship is one cluster can have only one plan at a time. But a cluster might have had different plans in the past. A cluster might even have a plan change scheduled for the future. And definitely a plan assignment happened at a specific time when the customer chose or upgraded their plan. And these additional attributes would either have to be modeled into the foundational model, so we not only would have inside cluster a plan ID, we would also have a plan timestamp or something like that to indicate when this plan was assigned to the cluster. And by using a one-to-one association, or even an association with a connecting table, we can add as many attributes to this relationship as we want, where we will have the cluster without any additional attributes, the plan with its own attributes, and in the middle we'll have a cluster plan table that has an ID for the cluster, an ID for the plan, and then the additional attributes like assignment date and things like that. And so modeling this with a little bit more complexity does actually make sense and will make everything so much more flexible. And our database systems are so powerful today that I really shouldn't worry about having a few additional tables and foreign keys in there. Now, as I said, I have a few more ideas for things that we'll need in here. Let me quickly try and remember what that was. Maybe the easiest way to get that, because now I'm blanking on it, of course, now that I'm under a little bit of performance pressure. I'm having a hard time remembering what the additional things were that I only thought about earlier today. So let me see. We'll try by... Let's do it this way. That's not the worst idea. Let's get rid of these. So we'll model our old plans that aren't even available anymore. So I'll do a hosting plan. Still struggling with Comac on my split keyboard, but I'm hanging in there. I haven't replaced it with any monolithic keyboard in quite a few weeks now. So eventually new muscle memory and new synapses will be built. So we'll create a hosting plan. For example, with the name Box Pro, and then I'm not going to assign these two variables as I do down there, because it's at the moment it's not really necessary for this kind of pseudocode. I'm not going to write a seed script right now. So service create, we'll create a service box. PU, that's the processing units. Or it was rather like we were able to accumulate boxes, basically. So the service would be the fries to box box. And first novel, hi, how are you doing? And then we'll have the service level. Service level. We'll create that. So that needs to be assigned to the service. Well, I guess I'll have to actually use some variables just to make things clear that this belongs to or we could use comments here. That's fries to the box pro with t-shirt sizes. Boxes / p. You need their own service. That way then we'll have the t-shirt sizes. Maybe I don't need that. Service level create. Name would be rise to box S. And then we'll add a service level attribute. Service level attribute. That is, of course, connected to this service level, where we would say the value would be, say, 8, and the unit would be PU, which is a unit that we invented for this service. It's short for processing units. Technically, it's PHP worker processes. So you were able to get different sizes of boxes, which simply had different limits in terms of the amount of PHP workers. Wilson says, I used italic for everything. My co-workers asked me why. The answer was I wanted them to ask why. You are such a troll. I mean, who needs enemies if one can have you as a co-worker? So in a similar way, we then would have box M. That simply differs in, well, it doesn't really matter. Let's say, okay, that had twice the amount of PU. And then we'll add service level eligibility. Eligibility. Create. Plan. Let's see. Service level. No, service. Well, first there's service eligibility. Yeah, that makes sense now, because only this old type of hosting plan will even have access to the box service. We've long discontinued this kind of plan, and so even if we have that in our database, still customers will not be able to add a Box M to their hosting plans anymore. So we'll have a service eligibility, and then we'll need the service level eligibility. Eligibility, where we say, okay, the service level would be the Pro S and the Pro M. Okay, that would work. Something like that. And were I to actually add that to the database, I would probably do something like status, and the status is discontinued. So it's still in the database, but can't be chosen anymore. And then how about our current hosting plans? We'll call that plan Box Pro 2, because we didn't change the actual product name or plan name, we just changed the attributes, i.e. the available services and service levels. So that status would be active. And then I went right into the more obvious technical things, but we'll also have to model our current capacity services. So I'll need something like this up here. I will say capacities, and we'll simply say that's the Pro 16 PU. No, That's just PU. And the change that we made was, while it's nice to have this pick and choose model over here where you can say, okay, I'll start with the FriesBox S and maybe then add another FriesBox S, and then when I realize that's not growing too quickly enough, then I'll add another FriesBox M or even an L later. That in the end created a lot of complexity, because suddenly we had customers who had all kinds of t-shirt sizes munched together. And so we said, okay, let's make a less complex model, where we'll simply have a service like FriesBox Pro PU, that's the processing capacity, and then we'll add MySQL capacity, storage capacity, all these kinds of things. Maybe service capacity is even the better term here than service level. Ad Coding joining us, hello, over on YouTube, asking, hey, how tough is it to move from backend developer to SRE or DevOps profile? I would say it's not too hard, because you already have software engineering background. In my definition, at least, SRE means you apply software engineering principles to operations work. And as a backend developer, you should be very familiar with the things that you will have to practice as an SRE. Which is deal with capacity, build logic to do deployment, logic to do monitoring, logic to do all kinds of stuff, automation in general. As a backend developer, you are familiar with data modeling, and that will help you to apply that knowledge to something like say a Kubernetes deployment, where you also have to pick and choose different things that need to work together. Where you have a deployment and then you have an ingress in front of it, and the ingress, between ingress and deployment you have the service and all these kinds of things. So I guess what will get you into SRE the quickest is to get actual operations experience, which means you have to be able to run things. And if you haven't run anything yet, I would simply say get yourself a VPS and do experiments. Start building your own website. Use a static site generator to host your own blog or something, where you can even document your journey from backend developer to SRE, or host your own photo gallery service or something like that. The self-hosting movement is in full swing at the moment, so you'll get plenty of not only documentation and software and things, but also plenty of input from people doing that already. And that's what will get you operations experience, where you get to use the Linux command line, where you get to install services, where unfortunately, but in this case also fortunately, you'll have to deal with outages, you'll have to deal with service issues, all kinds of stuff. And once you start then applying your software development mindset to these issues, how can I automate that this service needs to be restarted every 24 hours, otherwise it'll run out of memory? How do I make sure I'm aware when my disk space runs out? Things like that. And then you'll build up quite a bit of SRE experience, and that's something that I always love to see on people's CVs, where they can say, yeah, not only did I do this kind of stuff in my previous job, for example, as a backend developer, but I also, on the side, in my spare time, ideally, of course, during your work time, if your employer allows, I got experience in using Linux, in setting up a web server, in setting up a self-hosting infrastructure based on Docker Compose or something like that. That's definitely something that's within reach if you are already a backend developer. All you need is time and the right project that keeps you going. Now, let's see. Of course, FrieslyBox S, that's just a copy and paste here. Yeah, service level, I think I'll rename this to service capacity. Capacity level, if you want to nitpick, but... so that's then 16 PU. And now we'll have to take a look at attributes for these different models as well. You can only have one service capacity in this case, where while you were able to choose and combine multiple t-shirt sizes with the model up here, the step that we took to simplify everything was you can now only have one specific plan here, and you can upgrade and downgrade as you see fit. So we need to have something like this is the default plan, and something like max instances. Maybe I'll find a better term for that later too, where we say, okay, you can only have one here. While up here, if we call this service capacity, we'll have default, S would be the default here as well. And the max instances here would be, I guess if we want to work with an integer, we'll call it 0, which of course doesn't mean 0 instances, because that would be stupid, that would be silly. It means that it's basically unlimited. You can have as many instances here as you want. I guess that's an attribute of the overlying service, I think. You could call this attribute mix and match, true or false, but let's do it this way. Max capacities, or max capacity items. Let's be a little bit more precise here. AdCoding says, okay, cool, that's really helpful. I actually did a home setup, so I have a gaming PC, and for programming I use Mac, but the storage is 256 gigabytes, so I've set up a cluster on my gaming PC. Oh yeah, okay, so you're using network storage. Yeah, that's a great first step. So anything I develop on my Mac, I deploy it on gaming PC cluster and use that to build images and run the project. That makes perfect sense. And now you're asking for something SRE DevOps related to work more on. I find it hard to recommend something like that because that's really the thing is, for it to be sustainable, it needs to be something that you're interested in. You don't have to have a passion for it, but at least you have to have an interest in the outcome. And so if you're not interested in this, the thing that I find interesting, then it would be the wrong recommendation. But simply pick something that, as they say, scratches an itch for you. Maybe you're thinking about getting your own media server because you'd like to host your own movie files and TV series and things like that. Or maybe your own audio files that you ripped from old CDs. In that case, I would recommend, grab Jellyfin and install it on one of your machines, maybe on your gaming PC, since that seems to have the capacity, and try and get that running and see how that works. Something like that. So pick a problem that you actually have. Maybe you are into smart home, and then try and install Home Assistant and connect some smart bulbs or something like that. There are so many options that you can pick from that I don't really have to recommend anything. Simply go out there and find a use case that actually sparks joy in you and start implementing it and start learning from the experience. Sometimes it'll just go smoothly and within a few hours you have something working and it simply works. Hopefully that's the case. But oftentimes things also don't work because you picked a tutorial that was outdated, or the software has a specific issue with the particular Linux distribution that you picked, or something like that. And then you learn from that. That's how we all have learned. I've been using Linux since 1993. I'm afraid I forgot more than I learned during that time by now, but yeah, that's definitely the way to go, in my opinion. Pick something and then just do it. If you can't come up with something, that's also a sign that maybe you need to think about something, about the whole topic a little bit more. And maybe do a little bit more research on which kind of, in which part of the industry you'd like to go, and then pick something based on that. So there needs to be some reflection. You need to have some kind of a general direction in which you want to go, and the steps that get you there then will become apparent to you by themselves, I think. But you can always stop by here and ask stuff if you have some particular issues or getting stuck with something. I'm always happy to help, and on Fridays I even do an office hour live stream where I do nothing but answer questions. So that's definitely something that's available to you as well. And of course, there's also the server room. I won't hop into my usual pitch now. Just check out the serverroom.sh. Now, max capacity items for this service is 0, which means people can pick a FirstBox S, and then they'll also be able to pick a FirstBox M, where of course default is false. That will probably be the default value for default anyway, but just to be more explicit, because we want to make things clear in this architectural decision record. So this service can have as many capacity items as the customer wants, while down here, this service capacity items will only be able to take one. Pick one and stick with it. Anshul, gifting subs. Thank you for that. That's so generous. Thank you very much. And starting a hype train. That's amazing. I love it. New QC got a subscription. Fernando, the Master Lich, Roden, Thindal got one. Full Snarble, congratulations. Crangens, Theo, Timazante, and Chugging Coffee. Anshul D12, thank you very much. Catapulting us to a level 3 hype train, which is almost finished already. That's amazing. I think that's a complete first. Love it. You made my day. Okay, so let's see if I can model this further or if you run into some snags, because I guess that the main goal of this exercise is to test if this model actually holds up and can actually reflect how we are doing things in reality. And if not, then I'll be able to extend this data model. Ansha says, I'm ad coding from YouTube. You were super helpful and gave such a beautiful explanation to a smart spot from my side. And sure, we'll look and keep an eye on this for more. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, you're more than welcome. And I really appreciate you giving back, not only to me, but to everyone who's now got a subscription that will get them over ads, for example. Speaking of ads, and if you didn't get a subscription from Anshul this time, there's also my Owncast channel over at live.monospacementor.com, where the same stream is available without ads, without privacy stuff, without having to log in or anything. You can simply go and watch the stream there as well. It's absolutely fine. Okay, service capacity. Let's add another service capacity just to drive the point home. Of course, people will be able to pick something with, say, 32 PU. And the max instances we don't actually need anymore, so we can remove that. And of course, we'll need some service capacity attributes. Let's first fix the naming here. Service capacity attribute. Same here. And I just copy and paste that down here where we say, yep, this one has a capacity of 16 PU, and of course this one then gets a capacity of 32 PU. And This, of course, can't be the default 2. There can only be 1. And so people will start, if they take this plan, will start out with the 16 PU capacity. And since max capacity items is 1, they can upgrade this one to this one. If that's the implicit logic behind it. That also means that in the old plan, someone would be able to, say, choose a Box S and a Box M on top, and then they would be able to upgrade the Box S to an M as well. Well, that makes sense, actually. Yeah, that makes sense. Chugging Coffee joining us. Did the subscription that you got gifted wake you up? How you doing? I'm doing great. I woke up earlier from a nap. That's why I'm not still streaming. I only started about an hour ago or something. Because, yeah, I took a nap, then I felt tired still, and decided to sleep for another hour. And at least I'm now awake enough to do this here. And to have some coherent thoughts. So, the implicit understanding is that a service level capacity can be upgraded to one of the other available choices. And if max capacity items is larger than 0, then you can even add more capacity items to the ones you already have. So we could, for example, allow Apache Solar as a service that might have more capacity items than just one, and so people could be creating more Solar services. In this case, we would probably break this down into Apache Solar cores, which is basically a single search index. And then a website could have multiple cores, multiple indexes for different purposes, if we specify that this service can have multiple capacity items. But we might limit it to, say, 3 cores, so that people don't amass too many things. Interesting. So let's call this PU capacities, because that's what I meant here. Or yeah, let's simply say PU. And here we'll model Solar, so I can actually shorten this a little bit to make it easier to read. We'll create another service. In this case, yeah, let's use named arguments everywhere. And so the name in this case would be Solar, Apache Solar. We would, at the moment, I guess, capacity items, limit this to 1. And then we have a service capacity. And yeah, that's 10K documents, where we'll have a service capacity attribute. course, we need to reference this, but the thing is we'll have 10,000 documents. And then... wait. Yeah, so there's service eligibility. And I think we can actually call it like that. Hosting plan service eligibility, that is not wrong. But I guess we don't have to put everything in the name. Roland joining us as well. Hey, hey! Anshul brought everyone in. That's amazing. So, let's see. We'll call that service eligibility. Oops, that didn't work. Oh, yeah. And we would simply say... what happened? I see. Okay. So we'll say the plan is... Let's call this Plan Pro Legacy, just to make this a little bit clearer, and then we'll have the service eligibility for our Pro plan and the service solar, and then service level eligibility. How did we do that up there? Yeah, we'll simply set plan and then service level. That's the solar 10K. Implied, of course. This is just pseudocode, just to see if we can actually model stuff like that. And I just realized we did not. Model this up here, and so we would have to say the service would in this case be the Pro 16 service. No, that's the Pro PU service. And then we'll have Pro PU 16. We can also say we'll call that Pro. And that's Pro Legacy. Just to make it a little bit easier to explain, that's how I would say it verbally. For the Pro plan, we need to add Pro PU as a service. And then, of course, we'll have Pro PU 16 eligible. And of course, we'll also have... whoops. Pro PU32 available as well. Okay, and for solar, we'll have this service, we'll have capacity with capacity attribute, the service eligibility itself. Solar is available for FreeCWorks Pro, and we'll have the capacity eligibility where we say, okay, for Pro, we'll definitely allow the service capacity solar 10K. And up here, that needs to be service capacity as well. So far, so good. I'm surprised that this held up. Because I was sure that I was missing something in here. Interesting. Epic Ninja Elephant joining us. Hi. I have to say, Epic Ninja Elephant is an epic name. Pro streamer tip, don't drink and breathe at the same time. That being said, Epic Ninja Elephant, I do struggle with imagining an elephant quietly, silently climbing a roof and shuffling across it. But who am I to judge? That is, I'll have to concede that's the perfect answer, of course. Well, of course, we're ninjas, so you've never seen us do it. Touché. Yep. That reminds me of one of my shameful little secrets. It's been a long time since then, so I'm going to share it, but I did own a ninja gi far at the end of my teenage years. Must have been around 1920, something like that. Did you also do the martial arts to go with it? I did not do ninjutsu, but I did do karate back then. I started when I was 18. Did it for quite a while and then paused for about 20 years. And only fall of last year, I picked up karate class again. And it's amazing. It makes my day. And if there are weeks like this week where one of our classes had to be cancelled, so there's not going to be a class on Friday night, that's a real bummer for me, because yeah, I'm enjoying it so much. Not only because it seems to be the martial art for me, but also because it improves my life so much. I've talked about this on previous streams as well. The amount not only of physical improvements this does, or the amount of strength and things like that keeps improving. It's also the flexibility. That's the main thing. I mean, when I started end of last year, I was stiff like concrete, and since then I've been doing flexibility training on an almost daily basis. And not only, of course, did my karate get much better, and I already passed my first grading again. I'm now a purple and white belt, which in our ranking is the 5th Kyu. So I'm preparing for brown belt grading now. The improvements in daily life that this flexibility training has brought is even more amazing. I feel it on a daily basis when I simply have to pick up a sock from the floor, recently we were hiking and we had to climb over a fallen tree, and I simply put my leg up on the tree trunk and basically stepped over it, something that I would not have been able to do even a year ago. That's just mind-blowing, and I actually curse myself for not doing this kind of flexibility training earlier, even without karate class. So yeah, it's definitely something that is an important part of my life again. But no more nightly jumping around the garden with a ninja mask on. Where are we on time? It's almost 6 o'clock. I have to keep in mind that we are going to have dinner at some time. But yeah, so this all looks good, which of course is good, but it's also confusing me a little bit, because I was convinced that this data model, as it's sketched out here, is not yet complete. Service level has become service capacity, and we'll have to flesh out the attributes later. Then there's the service capacity attributes. The service eligibility and the service... Oops, nope, that wasn't what I wanted to do. The service capacity eligibility. Cluster plan and website service still stands. Maybe it was related to how we then assign these things. Cluster plan makes sense. We'll assign a hosting plan to a specific cluster. Let's actually do that. So Epic Ninja Elephant says, unfortunately, exercise is healthy. Science says so again and again. Yeah, it does. And to be honest, I just didn't think about the implications. I've been sitting at this desk maybe not at this desk, but I have been sitting at desks for most of my life, at least in the last few decades. I've been sitting and sitting and sitting, and when I had issues, say, bowing down and picking something up, I simply ascribed it to age, to aging at least, and yeah, that's normal. And I didn't even think that my muscles would not only atrophy by not having exercise. I thought, well, yeah, I'm built still quite well, and so I wouldn't speak of atrophy there. But I didn't realize what sitting does to your flexibility, to your hip muscles and things like that, which shorten and shorten to your hamstrings and all these things. And only now I realized, and my wife is about to beat me every time I bring this up. Now I realize that it's not fate, it's not age, it's not something that you'll just have to accept. If you put in a little bit exercise, a little bit of flexibility training, that is something that everyone can do. And yeah, I was really blind to that. I'm happy that I still caught it in time before anything serious set in. But yeah, and speaking of, I have set myself a daily reminder to do some flexibility training at 6 p.m., which is in 10 minutes. But I'll be able to postpone that a little bit for you. So let's see. We will simply do, what was that? A cluster plan. Create where we would say cluster is old cluster, and then we'll assign that the Pro Legacy plan. That works. Good. Now I got it. Because what we need to do is we'll have to differentiate between services that can be assigned to a cluster and services that can be assigned to any single website running on that cluster. So there are different levels here. The cluster capacity, we could call it that. This service here, the Frys2Box box, is basically the cluster capacity. That actually not only comes with the PU, but also with storage. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm finding the limits of this model. That's good. Question is, how do we model this? Do I allow wait a second, cluster plan is clear. A hosting plan like this can only be assigned to a cluster, but the services are different because this this service here, the box, that's on the cluster level, and down here the PU as well, that is across all websites of that cluster, but the Solar core has only one item, has a one item limit, because that's by website. Each website on the cluster can only have one Solar core each. But of course, if you have multiple websites, the cluster itself will then have multiple Solar instances in total as well. Pixel Buttercup is joining us saying, it is not usual to see you online so late. What's up? I overslept. Intentionally. When it was time to do my regular live stream schedule, yeah, around that time at least, I felt really tired. And so I said, okay, let's take a nap of 20 minutes and then we'll see if I'm fit enough to do a stream. And after 20 minutes, my timer went off and I realized, no, I'm still tired. And I feel like I can really sleep on. And so I decided to do so. I told myself, yeah, listen to your body. As a self-employed person, I have all the freedom to get my energy when I need it. And so I decided, okay, I'll sleep for another hour or so. And so I did. And then I felt re-energized and thought, well, it's now 4 o'clock or half past four. But who says I can't do a live stream then? And so I'll simply do a live stream until dinner time. And here we are. So, cluster plan is pro legacy. That's fine.
Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car!
Hide the planet!
This must be the day with the most subscriptions so far. Thank you, Pixel Buttercup. That's very generous of you. Supporting me not only here on stream, but also with a membership in the server room, which is the ideal way to support me, by the way, because you'll get quite a few things in return. While the Twitch subscription mostly gives you my gratitude, and then only ad-free stream viewing. Fulasaba says, can retire early. I will not retire early tonight because, speaking of the server room, tonight we're going to have our community hangout, a Zoom call where everyone can join and talk about whatever comes to their mind. And so that is definitely something that I'm looking forward to. Do I still have a can of beer in the fridge? I think I do. Holy Marmot joining us saying, is sharing a Linux distribution against the chat rules? Why would it be? This stream is just about SRE, about Linux system administration and software engineering. So we can talk about Linux distributions until the cows come home. Feel free to share what you're using or what you'd like to talk about. I can't imagine that being a contentious topic. The only consequence will probably be that you'll trigger me singing the praises of Bluefin, but other than that, I can't see any danger in there. Now, current hosting plans. We will have to assign the current plan to our cluster. So we'll say cluster plan create a current cluster. Contemporary cluster, whatever. And now we'll have to say website service create some website, and then we'll add the do we even have to assign the service itself? Because if we assign a service capacity, that will then get us the service anyway. I don't see a reason to assign this service directly. Website service capacity, create, and then we'll add the Solar 10K here. So that's a website service capacity. And for our UI, I'll have to also model which services are on which level or have which scope. So we would say this FrySandbox PU thing has a scope of cluster, while this one here has a scope of website. And within that scope, we have this max capacity items. I think that makes sense. So not only do I have to assign a cluster plan, but also the cluster service capacity that is related to that plan, which in this case is the Pro PU16. Pro PU16, which is possible because the overall service to which Pro 16 belongs has a cluster scope, and then we can assign a website service because Solar has a website. The Pro has a cluster scope, and Solar can be assigned because it has a website scope. So this allows us not only to validations on our data, but also even populate our user interface to give people the correct choices. Holy Morbid says, oh cool, it's not mine, it's a project from a personal friend of mine. I helped him a bit with the tmux config and some parts of the docs. Malbian Linux, interesting, never heard of it. But the more the merrier. Bethesda says, we are full of pragmatists here. We all know that there's options available for everyone, and the best choice for one user and use case is not the same as others. Yeah, definitely. Interesting. From what I read here, but I haven't checked it out yet. It's using Suckless, still using X with DWM. Yeah, that's a pretty niche thing. But you'll definitely meet some demand there, because there are lots of people who want to have a really slim Linux distribution and desktop environment. There's also an XFCE flavor, which sounds like it's the extravagant variant, the luxury variant compared to DWM and Suckless and stuff. Interesting. Blue Owl joining us on YouTube saying, "Hi, I'm very new to Linux and I've never used it, but I'm curious to try it." Please do so. It's going to be a lot of fun. What is this code editor you are using? That's NeoVim. I'm a NeoVim user. And PixelPath joining us as well over on YouTube. Lots of people from YouTube today as well. I wonder if streaming at this late in the afternoon is the better time for people to join us. Which will only give me more opportunity to take naps. I should experiment with that. There might be a Thursday stream that only starts at 4 p.m. Irish time. So yeah, NeoVim is, of course, as the name implies, based on Vim, the terminal text editor. And NeoVim is very popular by now with many people who prefer coding right in the terminal and not using a GUI-based editor such as VS Code or Z, for example. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. I'll admit that I wasn't a Vim user all the time. I did actually start out with Emacs when I started using Linux in the 90s. I think my first Linux distribution I got in 1993. I tried out Emacs and got pretty deep into Emacs as well. Made it my operating system, basically. I used it as my RSS reader, as my Usenet reader, as my email client, things like that. But in around 2000, I switched to macOS because, yeah, keeping a Linux system running in the 90s was quite the challenge, and there was always a new graphics driver and issues with that, and you needed to put a lot of time into keeping your system running instead of into using your system. That got on my nerves, and I heard that macOS 10 basically made it very viable as an IT platform, IT software development platform, operations platform. And so I got myself, I think the first I got myself was a Mac Mini, which confirmed to me, yeah, that's very capable and it works nicely, and all the applications are so polished, and there's a very consistent UI to everything. And I really enjoyed that. I got myself a MacBook Pro, and the rest is history. And only around 2020, I then had a quick affair using Windows, but then I installed Linux as a dual boot operating system and realized, yeah, the times have changed. Linux desktops are now very viable and don't require a lot of fiddling anymore if you don't want to. And so that's what got me back into Linux on the desktop. And in the last 5 years, I switched all my laptops, all my workstations, all my stuff to Linux. And so not only am I running hundreds of Linux servers with my company, we are a managed hosting company, but also all my machines here run Linux as well. Epic Ninja Elephant said, more naps, more viewers. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the winning combination, isn't it? Holy Mohammed says, yeah, the project is for malware analysis and reverse engineering. The lean and choice of DWM usage is to have it as a fast way to deploy the workspace with hypervisors. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. To have something very lean, very fast, with not too many requirements in terms of hardware. Yeah, that's definitely a good choice. Bethesda says, speaking of Z, I've been moving my work over to it. Interesting. That's something we should talk about later in our community hangout. I've only tried it for a few minutes at a time. I mean, it's definitely decent, but there wasn't anything in there that would make me change my things up. Nothing that got me running to it. So I'm very interested in hearing what exactly it is that intrigues you using Zed. Holy Mohammed says, I would love to use it, but my company uses VS Code with dev container workspaces configs. I mean, there might be requirements of your specific configuration that preclude you from using something else but VS Code. But if it's just the dev container workspaces, I think you can use that from a Linux command line even. There is a dev container CLI command that can do specific stuff, specific things. I'm starting to stutter, which means I need to get dinner soon. I tried that. I tried using dev container workspaces myself here on Linux, simply to get a consistent development environment for my Rails application and things like that. But I ran into issues even generating a proper configuration to start with. And after an hour or so, I gave up and said, okay, yeah, that doesn't seem to be worth it. It seems to be very geared towards VS Code, and trying to use it outside of VS Code might actually not be that well supported, which I guess by now I made a 180 and I'm pretty much contradicting my earlier thing that the CLI might not be the thing for you. The wonder of thought processes. Pixel Buttercup says, my combo is Westterm, now also trying Kitty with Tmux, Z-Shell and NeoVim. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm using as well. I do love Westterm, and I might actually switch back to it now that I think of it. Interesting that you bring Westterm up. I was a very loyal Westterm user, especially since it also uses Lua as its configuration language, similar to NeoVim, and it did all that I needed to do. And there's not much it needs to do. It basically needs to support Dracula as a theme, and that's basically it. Bethesda says, I've been happy with Ghosty. I'm using Ghosty now myself, but only because Westterm always crashed when I moved the window to the right on my main monitor. And there was another issue that OBS couldn't capture a window if it was pushed to the right on that monitor. But yeah, with Westterm crashing, that of course is something that you really can't have. You move your window around, you touch the right of the screen border, and your terminal crashes. That's of course not something that you'd like to do. And Ghosty didn't have that issue. However, I now realize that both issues with Westterm and with OBS were caused by me having my third monitor, namely the teleprompter monitor that I'm talking into right now, did it have fractional scaling on? I think it was the fractional scaling. And for some reason, having a monitor with fractional scaling next to a monitor that didn't have it was causing these issues. It solved the issue with OBS, so I'm pretty sure that it also solves the issue with Westterm. Let me try that. Actually, I'm pretty sure I still have it installed. Give me a second. Westterm. Here we go. There it is. Moving it to the right. Yep, that works. That works perfectly fine. If I move it with... Yep, no crashing whatsoever. Well, I would say Westterm is back in the race. I mean, nothing against Ghosty, does work well as well. But I'm just not using specific terminal things anyway, so I'm pretty flexible. But having Lua as my configuration language does enable a few things. For example, I can have Westterm use a bigger font automatically if I'm running it in a VM for the stream, for example. So I can use my standard configuration and it'll automatically use a bigger font when I use it for demonstration purposes. That's something I don't think I can do with Ghosty, especially since Ghosty can only use one single configuration file, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. Thank you, Pixel Buttercup, for mentioning Westterm. That definitely reminded me that the original crash issue might be resolved, actually. Now, Epic Ninja Elephant says pets user bin VI. VI was actually what got me into then in the end using NeoVim, because as I said, I used Emacs, then I switched to macOS where I used graphical editors such as TextMate and then Sublime Text, things like that. And of course I used VI when I logged into one of our servers and had to make a quick change that maybe for doing a temporary workaround or something that wasn't based on our automated configuration management. Usually you don't make manual changes when you have automatic configuration management. But it was nice for these quick changes, temporary changes, things like that. And then I thought, well, I do appreciate VI for its ubiquity. It's available everywhere I want it to be, and people keep singing the praises of Vim as a actual work editor, and why not try it out? And that got me deeper into Vim and using its specific features. My Vim configuration is still part of my .files collection that you can get with the !.files command in Twitch. It's on my GitLab account, and after I actually did switch to Vim as my day-to-day editor, then I also made a switch to NeoVim, which was quite easy because NeoVim could simply use my existing Vim configuration. And of course, over the years now, I've migrated most of my configuration over to Lua-based configuration as well. Westterm was fine, says Balthasar. I didn't really like dealing with its anti-Tmux stance. Is it Westterm that has that stance? I just realized we had also 2 reward requests for posture check and hydration. Redeeming them now, thank you. Yeah, I know that whereas Furlong does have his opinions, but was it anti-Tmux? I thought that was Kitty that where the owner had opinions that basically made me switch from Kitty to Westterm. I don't remember myself correctly either, so but I think that was the case. I think it was what's his name? Govid Goyal. I think it's the author of Kitty. He's also the author of Caliber, the ebook management software. And he's pretty opinionated too. And some things where he said, yeah, that I'm not going to support that. I'll do my own thing, and that made me actually look out for a new terminal, and that brought me to Westterm. And I only left Westterm because of the crashing issue that now I realize was only caused by the window manager or something. Praxeus also joined us. Hello! I missed you joining us. Praxeus says, Skids into the tail end of the stream. It is the tail end of the stream, but it's not that I've been streaming since 2 o'clock. I started late, so we'll also be ending late. Hello, how you doing? Looking forward to our hangout tonight. Praxeus says, yeah, I'm digging into a ton of CLI tools lately, still trying to figure out what is going on with the CLI discourse reader. Ooh, wow. Yeah, there is actually a CLI-based discourse client as well, yeah. Pixel Buttercup says, for work I use iTerm 2 because that's what I have configured and I'm forced to use a MacBook. Seems like giving a bunch of smart people Linux is not safe for a big corporation. Fortunately, the corporations I worked for were smart enough to at least allow Linux machines for the IT people, because otherwise I think they would definitely have lost some of the talent if they were to prescribe, say, Windows laptops like everyone else had to use. Yeah, there was a specific exception for all the IT departments to use Linux on their machines. But as I said, that is interesting. I don't really do a lot of dynamic use cases, but I guess I could do a common Western config between my laptop and desktop and use the Lua config to make platform-aware changes. That's exactly what I did. I have one single configuration file that gets read on any machine or VM that I'm running with my dot files on it. And based on the host name at the moment, I make specific changes that actually should reflect on this system here as well. I think we can try that out even, because that is the reason that this machine is called Demo 2, because I made a configuration change for Westterm to say on any machine whose hostname starts with demo, use the bigger font size. I don't think I have Westterm installed here yet, so we can quickly do that. One of the advantages Westterm has over Ghosty is that it's easily installable via Flathub, while for Ghosty you need to have a custom repository. All right, and if we look into my dot files, which should have a new alias. Oh, okay. Interesting. Wait, what's happening? Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong session. I got confused. Yeah, I'm not using Tmux anymore. I'm using Zelich now. Hey, this has become the terminal-based IDE stream now. But it's a great topic to round out things and wrap things up eventually. I've been a long-term Tmux user, but I thought, well, Tmux does everything it's supposed to do. I'll give it that, but it doesn't seem to make any more progress. No, not much innovation anymore. And so I said, okay, let's try out Zelich. Let's use it for, say, 4 weeks and see where it gets us. And I'm pretty sure the 4 weeks have passed by now, but I'm still using Zelich because it does everything I need to do as well. And the author of Zelich is adding new features and interesting capabilities on a regular basis. So, so far so good. Should it get on my nerves eventually, I'll be able to revert to Tmux within an instant, so that's not a problem. Let me see. Let's go into... it's Chez Moi. Here we go. Did we not update this recently? I think I did. Yeah, okay. And let's look into my Westterm configuration. So there's a default configuration file, and then it'll include a configuration file based on the host name. Let me take a look at the logic. Is this even going to work with Demo 2? Where do we do the host name based? Wait, I think that's here. Westterm Lua is the main thing. And here we get the host name. Oh, okay. It won't work with Demo 2. It'll only work with Demo. Okay. So I might have to copy the Demo configuration to Demo 2 to make this work. But that's a good way to demonstrate things, I think. Let me see. If I start Westterm and let's make this full screen. The font is pretty small, isn't it? So definitely not quite working for a stream. It would even strain my own eyes, and I'm sitting only half a meter away from the screen. So let's go into config, Westterm, not even adding it to my dot files, and we'll copy the demo config. Can't type anymore. Demo 2 config. See? Immediately switched to a bigger font size. It might still not be enough to be readable well on the stream, but that definitely demonstrated that it's very easy to have host-specific configurations with Westterm thanks to the Lua configuration. Bethesda says, yay-s ghosty. Are you using Arch, by the way? Bethesda says, I've been flirting with Zelich on my desktop too, but I'm not really liking it. Yeah, it has its own thing with the whole modal approach that it takes. And I definitely had to change all the keybinds from control-based ones to alt-based ones. Otherwise, it would have driven me batty with conflicts with the terminal and VI.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Kaka, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. Okay. Oh, well, that was nice. Nice little excursion into terminals and terminal options. Next stream you might see me using Westterm again. We'll see what happens now that I realize I can switch back to it. And I'm not using any terminal-specific features anyway. I'm not using the terminal-based splitting and things like that, so Zelich does that for me. So I'm really not dependent on the terminal itself, but Westterm does make a few things easier for me, as you saw with the font size adaptation. So, yeah. All right. So, people, it's about dinner time. I should at least check out if I can be of any help down there in the kitchen. And judging from how well this went, and thank you from my heart, not only for all the subscriptions, but especially for joining me here, for having a chat. It has been great. I'm looking forward to tonight's members hangout in the server room. There's still time to join us, and I will do my best to be back on Thursday afternoon, maybe only at 3 p.m. UTC, now that I realize that a later time might actually not only be beneficial for me to start rested, but also for you to join us in the first place. So let's see how this works out. And I'm pretty confident that there will be an office hour on Friday at 1 p.m. UTC, because that's the very regular scheduled time, where I'll answer your DevOps questions. And let's see, is there anything else? Don't think so. So thanks for everything. Until next time, take care.